Putter Funner here. So once again, I managed to squeeze my truck into the shop. So today I'll be doing the rear wheel bearing on my 04 GMC 2500. A lot of the videos that you'll see, got a nice shiny truck to work on. This is my daily driver. Got 420,000 kilometers on it. It's a little worse for wear. I'm going to get the tire off and I'll get back to you. So once you get your wheel off, you got to make sure that you put at least one jack stand underneath, and I usually keep the jack under it just to keep it supported and just be safe. So with this axle, you need to remove these bolts right off of the end here, and before you get started and even before you get the wheel off, you should make sure that you have enough distance from here all the way outward. Make sure that you leave yourself enough room to pull this entire axle out. And I'm not sure, but I think it's probably about 3 feet would do you. So I'm just using a 18 millimeter wrench, and I'm using the old double wrench trick right here just to give me some leverage. When you're turning that bolt with the wrench, just make sure that this rubber isn't turning as well, so just be careful with that. If you have a factory cylinder still, it's gonna be a Torx bolt in here. I don't even know what size it is, but it's a Torx bolt. You probably can't get in between here to loosen it. You can't pull this bolt all the way out because of the leaf spring right there. I just loosened these two just so that they wouldn't be so hard to loosen once this whole bracket is off. So the one bracket bolt is on top here. And using the double wrench trick again, these puppies are tight. There's one, and the other one is right down here. I'm going to have to resort to some foot power here. Here we go. It's loose. Got the bottom bracket bolt out. Find something to pry it out with. Careful with that hose. It's not very long. They don't give you much room to play with on that hose. And got a nice big leaf spring there to put it on. And I'll leave it there for now until I go to put the brakes back on. So the next thing is get the rotor off. And I just recently had this off, so come off nice and easy. And you can see right inside there all the oil that's gotten into my park brake already. And also into the brake shoes. I forgot to mention, before you take this apart, make sure that your park brake is not on, because that's just tightening these shoes onto the drum. So park brake off. So now you need to take these bolts out, and it's a 19 mil. So before you take all these bolts out, get yourself a drain pan, get it under there. Okay, so for now, I'm going to set this aside. So the first thing you need to do is, you'll see a slot right in the end of the shaft right there, and there's a keyway in there, but first this little clip needs to come out. Okay, hopefully I'm not going to get in your way here too much. What I'm using is a little dental tool and a small screwdriver. Well, that came out just too easy. So this clip right here, that's what it looks like. That goes into the groove and it snaps in. So now there's a nut on here and it has holes in it. There's a socket that you need that fits right into these holes. A socket that I don't have. So to remove this, I'm not going to need my tool because I can tell already that nut is loose. The bearing is a bit loose. And I lost my non-magnetic pickup thing. So I just got a little magnet just to pull that keyway out of here, out of that slot. And this nut should come right off. See how loose that is? I may need a tool to get this back together again, but I don't think that I will need it. Not if everything goes as planned. There's that nut. I didn't buy a new gasket for this, so I'm gonna see about saving this. If not, I'll just use silicone. Okay, there's a solid spot on the top of the brakes over here. I'm gonna try and pry a little bit on that part. Get it into the brakes, but there we go. One little pop. And those brake shoes aren't that bad for a park brake, so I'm gonna salvage them. So here's the assembly right here. Get it on the workbench. Back to you. Okay, so I've got this tightened up in my vise here, just underneath these bolts, or studs, or whatever you want to call them. And I'm just using a small chisel here. Just gonna tap that old seal out. Leakage, and the top bearing can come out. Usually you can tell a bad bearing by how much play back and forth and this way. Not horrible, but it is a little bit on the loose side. They're always going to be loose right here when you wiggle them this way, but it seems a little looser than it should be. So I'm not sure why, but I've never seen anybody give you an inside view here, but right here, you can see a clip. There's a tab there and there. Just gonna get a couple of flat screwdrivers in there. Hopefully I can pop that out. Maybe that's why nobody's showing this clip removal, because it's more challenging than what they may think it is. So I had tried breaking this loose here with needle nose pliers. I don't have snap ring pliers big enough, and it didn't come loose. I've got a very small chisel, and I'm just going to tap this snap ring just a little bit all the way around. Maybe that'll relieve some of the pressure off of the snap ring. And I'm not hitting it hard, just lightly. Oh, look at that. Now, this is a hard thing to get a good shot from the inside of this cap. And plus this looks to be like a little bit of a challenge to get this thing out. Probably why none of the other videos I've seen have actually shown this. Yeah. So today is day 2. Got a little bit fed up with this clip yesterday. This clip here was a nightmare. The way I managed to get it was grab it with needle nose pliers way down inside this hole, and I had to kind of squeeze and push in at the same time. Had an assortment of screwdrivers that we used to push in behind the clip, and I was trying to be careful with it. I didn't want to break the clip, and so I was fighting with it, and finally I got the bigger bar out and I got behind it and pried it, and my wife came up with this idea right here. Used a little loop and hooked it around once we got it far enough out that we could loop this around, and then worked it around with the vice grip like that, and finally got the thing out. You should be able to see down in here where the bearing race is, down in here, and I'm just using this punch to knock it out, going around evenly. Almost there. There it goes. That's out. This outer bearing has to be knocked down from the other way after that clip is out. And I found myself a piece of pipe here. Sorry. And there it is. So there's the bearing with the race. Came out this way. So now it's a hollow shell. So what I've got done here so far, I've got my bearing just laying in the bottom, and the bearing race is, got it partially tapped in right now. I don't have the tool to do this, so this is what I made up. And how I'm doing it is I got the old bearing race on top of it there. And I found myself a washer. Just, actually, you know what? I'm going to put it this way. Just nicely fits in there. And a big bolt with a nut on it. And I'm just going to hammer it in with this. I'm just making sure that my bearing underneath there isn't getting pinched while I'm doing this. You want to get this in as evenly as possible. So here's the dreaded clip that took us forever to get out. Just going to drop it back in there. Oh, and I got the bearing in all the way, and there's no play in it right now. So it's in there, it still turns. Got that in there all the way nice. Okay, so I'm going to try and wrestle this thing back in. Hopefully it's not going to put up too big of a fight.
Come on, yeah. Baby, you're talented. You got 3 hands.
Okay, it's in. I didn't get it on video because we needed 3 hands here to do this. 4 hands, sometimes 5. Anyway, I got the ring in there on one side like that, and just kept on pushing it down with another pry bar, another screwdriver, and got in behind it and shrunk it down until it finally got down in there and it just snapped into place. So now you can probably see that there's a little gap between the ring and the bearing race there, and that has to be, that bearing race needs to be tight up against that clip. So what you'll see here is these groove holes right here, and if you go all the way up against the edge with a thin punch, you can tap on that bearing race. Once you hear that solid thud, you know you've bottomed out. And I'm just going to check this by the light. It looked like this side needed to be down a little bit more. So there's a little bit of play in that bearing now, and I'm going to flip this over. And I've got the new bearing race. I'm going to tap that down in there. Using the old bearing race, and I'm just going to tap that down to get it started, and try to get it started evenly. It's not quite far enough down. Just going to get my brass punch here and tap it down the rest of the way. And when you hear that thud sound, you know you're there. Now the only problem is I got this ring stuck in here. The old one. just going to flip this over, and I'm sure I can get down in here and nail just the old one. Brass punch. There it goes. It should be right up against that ridge, all the way tight. I've got some 75/90, that's what this calls for, synthetic, and I'm just going to coat that bearing that's already in there. You don't want that to be dry when you put it in. So now I've got my inner bearing, and I'm going to do the same with it. Just give it some oil. Wipe off this seal surface here. It's supposed to go in dry. And I've already compared the parts here to make sure I got the right seal, which I do. According to the instructions that came with the seal, you're supposed to use that tool right there. And I don't have one. And so far anybody that I've seen on YouTube has not had one of those tools, and all they use is a big flat bar steel, like a square tubing or something. So basically what that tool is supposed to protect is this inner part right here. You don't want to bend this at all, because I'm not sure if you can see that, but this is a two-piece seal. And you don't want to damage this inside part. So I've seen guys using pieces of steel for this. Couldn't find a piece of steel that I needed, so nice long block of hardwood, that'll do. Just want to make sure it's tight all the way around. This is actually a two-piece seal, turns in the middle. Be careful. Okay, that piece is ready to go on. Alright. We just have to turn those clips. That clamp out. There's a pin in the middle there. And you can give it a half a turn. And out she comes. There it is. And all this stuff is going to have to get cleaned up yet. So I'm just gonna lay this down just the way it is. And that way I don't lose track of how it goes back together. No sense in you watching through all this cleaning. I'm just going to use some brake cleaner and get this job done. Get back to you. Okay, so we've got pads cleaned up. Meaning my wife cleaned them up. Hoping I can get this all in here in one piece. got it. So now I'm just gonna put these two little pins in the back. I've got this little clip that holds those brake shoes in place, and I've got a vice grip. I've got it near the end right there. And it's just nicely compressed at the tip. You don't want to squeeze this too far or it's going to lose its flexibility. And you have to get the pin through from the other side, and hopefully there's enough space to get that thing to turn. Just using needle nose pliers to turn it. There we go. Release the vice grip and it's in. Yay. Both of them are in. I'll pull that little piece out. And this seal is supposed to go on dry. And it's a quite tight fit. Yeah, I've got that kind of started on there, and I'm just going to put the nut on now. And I know this isn't the proper way to do it, but I don't have the tool. Snug. Just give it a few taps, turning it. So I'm going to continue doing this tightening and turning until I get it all the way snug, and I'll get back to you. So what I found that the bearing and actually the seal was starting to just tighten up as I was going. So I've got a very soft brass hammer here, and I've just been tapping this in and turning as I go and tightening as I go. It's getting close. I know I'll probably get a lot of comments that I shouldn't be hammering on this, but I'm getting a little desperate to get this done. And I know I should maybe get a plate of steel or something up against that. And I don't have anything handy, so my hammer is handy. Now, not sure if you can hear that, but that's the sound of a solid hit, meaning that it's bottomed out. And I do believe that is. Okay, that's good and solid. If you have the socket to do this with. The actual way to do that is tighten and turn and torque this to 50 to 55 foot-pounds, and then turn it back a quarter turn after you've got it up to the 50 to 55. And what I'm doing here is I listened for it to bottom out, which I can clearly hear, and so now I've got it pretty tight. It's not going any further. So I'll use that as my 50 to 55, and I'm going to do a quarter turn after. So if I was to turn it back just up to that notch right there to line up with this, I wouldn't be anywhere near my quarter turn, so I'm going to go all the way to that one and then put my pin in there from there. Okay, so right there, still not quite enough. My bearing still feels quite tight, so I'm going to go one more yet. Nope, that one's too far because it's you can actually feel it. It's got play in it. So I'm going to go back to this one. Okay, I'm going to put that little keyway back in right there. And then this little metal clip, it has the one piece that hooks into this notch. And that just slips into the threads there. And it keeps that keyway in. That should be good. Okay, so we got that all set, and brake drum back on, brake drum and rotor. There we go. So I just got my silicone gasket maker here. I don't think the gasket that I had was going to survive, and I usually do a neater job of this, but my tube is half hardened up on me and it's the only one I got, so just trying to get out what I can. Just going to spread that out nice and even. Right. And I've already cleaned the other side of this, axle shaft here, so that it'll seal up nice with that. And just gotta find the place for it to go back in inside there. Get the splines in. There we go. Line up the holes. Alright. I'll get all these bolts in and get back to you. So I'm going to give you the best possible shot I can from this angle here. I've got my brake pads back in. the top bolt in just to hold it there for a second. I've got some Easy Slide brake lubricant, specially made for disc brakes. Just going to set those down someplace clean. And now what I'm going to do is put this on. Onto there. There, now I got enough room to get the top one in again. And the bottom one for the bracket. I'm going to put that back in so that this whole thing is supported. And then the top bracket bolt, that back in. Okay. Just make sure your pads are in the sliders the way they're supposed to be. And we get the ratcheting wrench back on there and tighten this back up. Okay, so I'm going to get my regular 18 mil, give those caliper bolts a little extra snugging. There. And these bracket bolts, I'm not sure what the torque is, but they are at an outrageous torque. So I'm just going to use that double wrench trick again. I can't get a socket to one of the bolts there to get a torque wrench on it. So just getting them extra tight with a double wrench. Time for the wheel to go on. So there was one more thing yet before the wheel goes on. I don't know if you noticed, I was just loosely tightening these up before. I was just giving the silicone a little bit of a chance to settle. And now I'm just going to tighten them the rest of the way. And I'm sure there's a torque on here too, but I don't know what that is. This thing says they're tight, then they're tight. Okay, so just finishing off a nightmare of a job here. Torquing these to 140 foot-pounds. Please keep in mind that I am not a licensed mechanic. I researched this job before I did it and found what I found, but I didn't find anything too terribly detailed. Hopefully this is going to turn out right. Now that the tire's torqued on, there's two more things I got to do yet. It's getting cold in here. So the first next step is to get underneath and fill up the fluid, and then I'll show you the next step right after that. So on this rear end, this is a 15 mil. I've got a drain pan under there. My owner's manual says that I should have 75/90, and that's what I'm using. And I'm just gonna Oops. In case you can't see, I've cut the tip off right here and just gonna fill it up. I don't think that's full yet. It's dripping out of there, but I think that's just from the way I pulled it out of here. This has been leaking for some time, so I can't see that being full. Okay, I guess it is. Wow. I did fill it fairly recently, so I guess it didn't run dry, at least anyway. I'm going to check it again in just a little bit. Now it says after you refill the fluid, you're supposed to park on an angle with the new bearing and new seal on the lower end. And I've done kind of an equivalent of that. I raised up that side over there, and it looks like it's on a good enough slope that the oil can run down here. And I'm going to leave that sit for about 20 minutes like that. So it's been about 20 minutes now, and I'm just going to let that side back down. Check it one more time. Okay, it's got lots in there. And I guess there's one more thing left to do, and that's to go for a test drive. Get to go for a drive. Gotta get these filthy coveralls off so I can go for a drive. So if you've been considering doing a seal change on this truck, I don't recommend doing it without that tool, without the proper socket. And I also don't recommend just anyone doing a bearing change on this. And if you plan on doing this bearing change, my advice would be to really research it well. And it's a little more intense than what a lot of these other videos make it seem to be. So, thank you for watching, and hope you liked the video. Hit the like button if you like, and please subscribe. Test time. Brakes apart, so I'm pumping the brakes a little bit right now to get the pressure back into that cylinder.